Good morning, New York. Okay, our first discussion today will be around the subject of modularity and portability of clean rooms and processing. Based on yesterday's discussion, Craig, this is a really prominent topic about modularity and portability. So right off the bat, I think one of the things that we had picked up yesterday was the identification of moving processes, in particular biomanufacturing into third world countries or areas in which it was required, especially in the biosimilars. So we'll touch on that, but essentially what we're looking at mobile clean rooms, and what they found, well, about mobile clean rooms was that they found that in the case of manufacturing of biosimilars, okay, that the real bottleneck was in the fill finish area. So just seems to me a mobile clean room would be perfect like that. So what about that?
Mobile clean room concept really leads itself well to the fill finish. They have the air quality that's needed over it. It's for regulatory approval. They are modular. The fill lines, filling, stoppering, capping, all can fit in the mobile clean room. And you can also, we've even done layouts. We haven't built one yet, but we've done a layout with a lyophilizer. So we made that a U-shape type layout. So fill on one leg, lyophilize on the other leg, pull it back out to your capper, and then you're running product over to your labeling facility from there, which would probably be outside of the clean room facility, but running through a mouse hole on the outside of it.
Yeah, one of the things that I was wondering about, though, is, we talk about, well, we move them here and we ship them there. So how exactly do you transport something like a mobile clean room?
They're really easy. You hire these wonderful guys called riggers, and you just tell them, I need you to pick this up, put it on a truck, and it's shipped on a double drop lowboy. So it's a double drop trailer. They're usually, the main deck is about 18 inches off the ground. The MCR itself is about 12 feet high externally. So you just load them on there with a crane, you pick them up, move them down the road, and bring them off on a crane. And then the riggers, they've got all kinds of different ways of transporting them, as far as powered rollers and items like this that they'll just use them to move them right in. It is not an item to worry about. It is a detail.
Let me just, maybe so I got it. I mean, when this thing shows up to where it is this something that it's not like a trailer. I mean, you have to be put inside something?
Yeah, right now, the state of the art is inside, and it really needs to connect to very simple facility connections to it. One is an ISO 8 air quality corridor. You can't, like I said yesterday, you can't hook it up to a dairy barn. You need to control the air a little better from that aspect, but it's really a hallway, airlock doors that go to your gowning facility, and then a simple air handler with HEPA filtered air over it. It's real easy, and that could be shipped along with the unit, or you could provide it locally. It's real easy, but basically hook it to an ISO 8 hallway for air quality, and then utility, electric, and then compressed air, and that's all you need. So, and one other one I forgot, chilled water. But these are utilities that can be made modular, and you can bring them along with it if you're going to off-site areas that don't have anything. Those could be sourced locally. We can help do that too, and those can be skidded up as a utility and brought along with it. A water chiller, for example.
So let me see if I got it straight, though. So compressed air, electric, chilled water, HVAC now. It's not just the power. Do you have to supply the HVAC, or how does that work?
The HVAC is built into the unit. So we would like to know the end users attending place that you're going to put it, because if you're going to put it in Antarctica to use it extreme versus the tropics, we'd like to know that, because it's going to change the supply skid configuration to it as far as what the local temperatures are. But again, those are items that can be adjusted if need be. You put in a larger coil, example.
So, okay, so they has to go inside something. So we're talking about, in other words, with the supply and the utilities, it's a supply and utility skid and the MCR, right?
Yeah.
So how much, roughly, basically, how much room are we talking about?
The MCRs themselves are, the base design that we have is 18 feet by 48 feet. And on either a 8, 9, or 10-foot ceiling in it. And this can be configured into different units. You can gang them up like a hallway and lay them out linear, or you can actually butt them together and make like a double wide, or you can go end to end and double wide, so you can gang them together there. It's pretty flexible as far as being able to do that.
Sort of hallways and stuff like that, that's separate from the modular.
Yeah, that's hallways. We do some cross connector hallways for midpoint along the way. So of the 48-foot length on it, let me say halfway, 24, you can put a cross connector hallway, gang them up so you have entry on one end. Maybe you had 2 or 3 MCRs that weren't connected to the hallway, and then another MCR that is connected to the hallway. So you could have, some facilities like to have unidirectional flow of their people. So gown in on one end, go through those cross connector hallways, and gown out on the other end of it.
Okay, look, you know, I think that's something I wanted to, let's spend a little more time on that. One of the things that they, and again, I don't want to repeat myself, but I will, is that this, the bottleneck on the fill finish, it seemed that there was a requirement that this seems to be growing. So I would assume that in a lot of cases, we're gonna have to, how would you expand? In other words, let's say, based on our conversation, we got one MCR or mobile clean room that's probably capable of 300. If we wanna go to 600, we probably add another mobile clean room.
Yeah.
So how do you expand something like that?
It would add another mobile clean room to it. I'd put a cross connector tunnel to it and add it right to it, just to the, immediately on the left or the right of it, and gang those lines up. And I really think that a line of, you know, let's say 2 300 vial a minute lines is a lot better than 1 600. If you lose production in that one line, you're down for some reason. If you have 3, you have 2 300 units. It's a lot more flexible from a maintenance aspect, but then also from a market load prospect too.
So Craig, when you ship these things, are they fitted out with all the equipment, or is that done on site?
They can be fitted out with the equipment. We haven't done that as of yet, but it can be done that way as far as the fitting out of equipment. The only fit out that we've done in our plant was a high velocity centrifuge, which was a special mount that we put in. We did this special mount in our facility and then took it apart to ship it. But there's no reason you can't bring the MCR, for example, to headquarters, bring your people you're going to train that are going to operate it at wherever you're going to produce at that market, and bring them to headquarters, train them, have all your training records for your oversight people to see, and then and also have the process completely put into the MCR in the headquarters, fine-tune it, train your people, and then pick it up and move them.
Let me let me see this. What I was thinking about. So, if I was, say, a project leader, okay, or a new small company guy. So I'm trying to decide what to do here. I'm gonna buy an old warehouse and fix it. I'm gonna build something on a green field. I'm gonna buy modules and fit it inside some, okay, not a dairy barn, but something.
Yeah.
So walk me through the process. I mean, it seems to me that this is, what are the advantages, disadvantages? Is this more expensive, less expensive?
Okay. The unit, we think it compares very favorable to stick building clean rooms, and the fact that what it does is it defines a fixed design to it. This is what it is. This is the air quality you're going to get, and you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel all the time and hiring large engineering firms to have lots of complicated engineering, which takes not only money, but it takes time. So we believe that we know we're quicker to market. We think a stick-built clean room on an average would be 1.5 years, where we can deliver between 6 and 9 months your MCR. So a half a year quicker to market or to delay your purchase, those are significant financial advantages to the mobile clean room concept.
So if I'm sitting there and I got myself an empty warehouse or an empty field or something I can modify, the direction should be what?
The direction, that really the only items you need to check for either greenfield or for the empty warehouse portion of it would be to make sure that you had the room height to get it in there. As long as you've got 12 feet of room height, you can always modify the building to put a door on it, put your hallway in it, add your ISO 8 hallway to it, check your other utilities, and you can have yourself a facility in relatively short order. And those facility for legacy sites, the engineering on that is not that much. To add a hallway, the hallway portion of it and the doorway, as long as you've got the ceiling height to start with. Jacking up ceilings is nothing you'd want to do. You'd want to start with something greenfield or a different site, but that's not a severe limitation.
Let me ask you this. I mean, we call them mobile clean rooms, but I mean, bottom line is if I wanted to move in an oral solid dosage form process, it would lend itself to this as well, right?
Yes, it would. Yeah, the only issue with oral solid dosage is, again, it's some of the larger capacity ones, you might need some head height to them to feed in your bins, because you've got a post hoist, you've got to rotate them up, and we have engineered some areas where you'd have a high hat to it, where you'd bring the ceiling up higher. So again, the only limitation I think for oral solid dosage might be checking the bin sizes versus any processes you have to rotate them to empty a bin or lift them up to empty a bin, and then the facility height. You might need more height for it, but it can be accommodated.
Okay, so I guess the other thing I was going to ask is this. We were talking about, I think, putting them on a low boy, that's fine if I'm going to ship them from Wisconsin to New Jersey, say, but what we were talking about yesterday was a situation where we would be sending these to support manufacture in a country where a biosimilar, even a new bio product needed to be made. So if I was going to send this overseas, what do we ship this like a container? Do we air freight? What do we do?
It goes by ship, and it goes on top of the deck to it, because it's larger than a standard container. But they can accommodate those on larger ship on top of the deck, and we've quoted some that went to Singapore, Brazil, and South Africa for one thing, and there was no problem getting them into either country by a boat, and it was also less expensive the closer you get to the port cities. Imagine that.
Yeah, and port cities is where you find the warehouses. But anyway.
Right, exactly.
But let me ask you this. I mean, on a triage, I mean, say, do you guys come in and look at the site that it's going to go? I mean, obviously, there's got to be some drop-dead issues on where you're going to put this thing in. I mean, let's face it. Yeah, granted, I think let's talk about the environment it goes into. Otherwise, it's going to be challenged. So what do we normally look for on something like that?
A clean warehouse space with the head height to it, and then we can modify the doors from that, and then add in a connecting ISO 8 quality hallway to it. And those are relatively minor engineering issues to deal with, and they can be done relatively quickly. It's not like starting over all the time from a greenfield site.
So And so we're talking about if we're going to do an expansion, so if these are 18 by 48, we said?
18 by 48.
Okay, if we were gonna gang 3 of these together to make 3 filling lines when we do this expansion, what is the inherent, obviously when you connect them together, there's gotta be connecting modules and stuff, so what happens?
A typical connecting module in the side of it would be a 10-foot length, so maybe a 10-foot pitch between the 3 of them. So you're going 18, a 10-foot pitch, 18 wide, 10-foot pitch, 18 wide. So, and then back all those up to a hallway. It can be common or it can be broken between them depending on how your gowning policies are. But again, really simple connections to it, to a facility. Put them in place, put your utilities to them, your HVAC, and like you said, we said earlier, the goal is to make product.
Right. So, in principle, once these things are in place, it's almost as if, you know, it's like what we see every day in a conventional stick-built facility. We go in with our street clothes at one end, we gown up, change, move in. Same idea, right?
Yep, same idea.
And that's all built in.
That's all built into it. Same idea. And then when your regulation people see that, they're not going to know any difference, you know, when they're walking around the inside of it. Terrazzo floors, the solid non-shedding floors, the HEPA filter supply to the roof, you know,
so
nothing they hadn't seen before.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. So pretty much the flexibility seems to be there. I mean, it sounds to me like these things are not conventionally stacked on each other, though.
No, I haven't done vertical stacking yet, but they're pretty flexible as far as how you want to arrange them, either side to side or end to end. And one of the other things that we're currently doing is BSL level 3 units that the client wants flexibility, and we've got that built in with doors that you can reverse. So in a clean room, you always want to have the air pressure pushing the door closed. So we've got rooms in it that they might want to use them for an airlock, and they would be under negative pressure. But then they also said, well, if I don't want to use it as an airlock, I would like to use it as manufacturing space. So we flip the doors over and a simple PLC change to the HVAC system, and you've got a positive pressure room.
So how do these things come then, Craig? Do you do all the systems and the IQs and everything is done when they arrive? So pretty much, yeah. I'm just giving you a sense of what we do.
Yeah, there's a full IQ OQ package that goes along with them, qualifications, and again, this is not wall panels. This is a complete facility. It's on a deck. It's on a platform that's very rigid. The walls are welded to that. It's all complete when it comes in. It's not kit form. When it comes into the site, the main thing is hooking up power, chilled water, and compressed air, and then your utility, your HVAC tie-ins to it. Either a skid we provide or into your own facility HVAC. If there's some of them that are done that way too.
Okay, so we had talked about the U-shaped one where you put a Lyle process in. So what does that look like when you break it down and ship it? So how does that work out?
Okay, the Lyle would ship separately to that. And as you know, with a Lyle, there's a clean side and a dirty side to them. So you would set the Lyle out in the 90 degrees from your ISO hallway and set that first. Bring your MCR up to it, put your BioSeal around it, so now you've sealed off between the dirty side and the clean side to it, and move in your filling lines in there, and you should be ready to go then. There'll be other utilities that'll have to drop into the outside of the facility for the Lyle, but that you'd have that arranged through your Lyle manufacturer.
Now, how do companies normally finish this? I mean, is it just this box sitting in the middle of a big room? I'm saying,
It's literally a box sitting in front of a big room. That's what it looks like. And we call the space outside of it gray space. The first ones we did, the floor was painted gray, so we just call it gray space.
Well, that's incredibly gifted. I like that approach.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, right. So I think it just seems to me that this would make a lot of sense, especially the fact, and I think one of the things I think it's important is, you know, when people are looking to do these Podja, because I think you talked about, yesterday we talked Modular or Modular.
Yeah.
You want to me, is that just some guy
marketing names between different competing companies.
Well, okay, there you go. So my pod is your mod.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So pretty much, I mean, so if I was going to come to Walker, I mean, the bottom line is so how's it work? I got a process and I want to make it portable. How would I do that? I mean,
well, the first thing in any project is define your process, and then it's define your process again. But once you've got your process defined, and we can work with you on that too, is we can make arrangements as far as how it's arranged in the MCR and make recommendations, like to think if it's going to fit into 2 units or 3 units wide, for example, like that. That would be the main thing that we'd want to do, is some initial process layout, and then fine tune it from there later on.
Oh, so, and then the other, I think the piece that a lot of people, at least a lot of misconceptions I have, is that this comes as a completed unit. A lot of people envision that it comes as, you know, floors and walls that are fabricated in place and bolted together. It's not the case.
Not the case, not at all. The only thing we bolt together is cross-connector tunnels, and we are pretty much limited to 18 feet wide for getting the units over the road. So you can make a 16-foot wide, you can make a 14-foot wide, but 20, you got to really split that in two, because it's not practical at 20. 18 is doable, it's practical.
And what areas, I mean, just so you've done a lot, obviously the clean room tells me a lot, but I mean, bottom line, have you put anything in place for things other than aseptic processes? Or?
R&D processes that are, and also we've done this for semiconductor too.
Okay.
That's a completely different airflow layout to it, because they want particulate control. Believe it or not, in the semiconductor world, is actually even more critical than pharmaceutical, and it's a completely different layout with a raised floor to it. But it has been done. We have done that.
Let me ask you, probably, if it's a stupid question, but I mean, a lot of times we run into these situations where, in my past experience, you know, we get into a facility and then we realize, we're missing a piece of the process, or first thing we do is we knock down walls and we start stick building stuff. Is something like this something that I could just move into a facility and bolt and connect it to my building to add like a packaging line?
Yeah, you can do that. You could add a packaging line to it. You could add a fill line to it. You could add the upstream processes where you're making the bulk itself, bioreactors, or like you mentioned earlier, the oral solid dosage.
Mm-hmm. So these can stand alone outside as well in the environment, or customarily they need to have some sort of enclosure?
Yeah, customarily inside a building.
Okay. So, and how about, and that would be in, you know, a temperate climate, but like in an area where it's always warm, like let's say like in Singapore, the Dominican Republic. I mean, other than the shed over it, customarily it has to be inside.
It should be that you're going to take some of the heat load off it, just
gotcha.
having it inside.
Okay.
And then for those areas, you'd have to upsize the cooling capacity of it, obviously. So you're going to need some bigger coils to it to knock down the heat and humidity.
Okay. And how about cleanability? I mean, we're talking about a clean room. You guys build this in? I mean, that's got to be a significant effort here.
Yeah, it's clean room doors from vendors here at Interfex. It's wall coatings from vendors here at Interfex. It's floor coatings from vendors here. So it's all prime, FDA certified materials on the inside, non-shedding, clean, wipeable surfaces.
And how do they normally clean these?
It's a wipe down your
Just a
clean
wipe
room.
down, yeah. Okay.
Lots of vendors here at Interflex that could help you with that.
Seems to me the reason I keep asking the questions, Craig, I think a lot of the theme that we've been hearing is something I can move from place to place, but more important that all the moving parts are in one box and not the...
Yeah, they're all in one box, and the other item that's very important is you can treat it as a piece of equipment and take for example, take a 10-year depreciation on it versus a 30-year depreciation for a building, which is like we said yesterday, it's closer really to a life cycle of a product.
All right, so we're coming down, we're gonna try to wrap it up, but I think what I wanted to do is a lot of the folks that come to talk to us here, if I was faced with a selection process, in other words, like going back to our conversation before, I mean, how would you walk a guy, walk a small firm or somebody through the process as to making their selection? Like I said, they either got a green field, they got a place to put this, or, what's the options and how do you talk them through the costs and the risks?
Well, the talks and the risks on it are okay. The client is going to have some idea where they're going to want to do the manufacturing. All right, we can set the facility and the equipment on his process up here in the United States, and he doesn't have to worry as much about the quality around the initial shell or the bio-environment, as you want to call it, around the process. He doesn't have to worry about non-shedding the right coatings on the walls and things like this if he's doing the process in some place where he doesn't know the local vendors or the local codes and things like that have to go into it. We can keep the quality here up to the level that the clients need, and then they can just move it to local sites for HVAC in the building, HVAC support to the hallway and things like that, which are that can be done anywhere.
So I think what we're talking about is the critical construction and design phases can be done for us. The less critical, such as the box that the box sits in, can be manufactured or is an existing place.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to worry that much about the less critical areas. You should concentrate on the areas that are more critical, that are around your process, because that's what controls your quality.
Yeah. It just seems to me, a lot of this stuff could have probably been leveraged many years ago. I mean, some of the stuff, I guess at the time, but, because in principle, if you look at some of the facilities that were assembled in these areas, if you take a step outside into what we call the gray space, essentially the GMP area is just a stick-built box inside a bigger box.
It's essentially, yep. The main difference is here we now have a floor and it's portable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Greg. So that's Craig Johnson from Walker. We talked about the modular clean room concept and the applications that we can use. And that's going to take care of our first session here at Interflex Live. Thank you very much.
Thank you.